All right. American Whiskey Review. What's up, man? Hey, Bourbon Runner. What's going on, man? I know it's late where you're at. Tyler, what's happening? Mr. Brilia. Good to see you on there. Man, we got some new people on there. Hey, Kate. Barrels of Mash. Pacific North Weeded. What's going down? I'm super excited to be making a daiquiri tonight. This is my absolute favorite cocktail. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a spin on it. And I'll talk about what I'm doing tonight. What's up, Chris? The daiquiri is my favorite cocktail because it's a good beginner cocktail to start with. I know it's a rum-based cocktail, but I mean, it's not bourbon season right now. We need some distraction from it so we don't drink our good bottles. And till the big boys come out, we can start chasing those down. But the reason that the daiquiri is kind of a good beginner cocktail is because it's so simple. There's only 3 ingredients in it. And then the other reason is because you can do a lot of tweaks with a daiquiri that definitely change the flavor characteristics and the flavor profiles of it so that you can sort of tune in your own cocktail preference for your own palate and taste preferences. What up, El Rey Blanco, Dan, Robbie, what up, man? So I'll give it a couple more minutes and we'll get started. Let's see, what can I do to have some distraction? So I got something random. So I did a trade with a guy recently to get some bottles I was looking for, and I actually traded out a couple of my Thomas Handies. So I was putting together a vertical of Thomas Handies, and then I opened quite a few. So you can see in there. So I was working my way back, and then I realized that, what's the point? Like, I'm going to chase down these impossible bottles of Thomas Handy. And so I traded 2 of them out. I did a really good deal. I traded a Thomas Handy, I think it was like a 2013, but I got the Blanton straight from the barrel, a Blanton's Gold, and then a mystery bottle. So not a bad deal considering. And the mystery bottle that I was sent was this one. So it was Martell Blue Swift. I know that's backwards because I'm on the front-facing camera. But basically what this is, it's a cognac. It's a cognac that was finished in bourbon casks. And it's a $50 bottle. It's one that I've seen in the store and I've passed on before, but it looked interesting. And I actually tried it today. It's actually pretty dang good. I really like cognacs. You got to be in the mood for them because they're a little bit sweeter. But the fact that this one was aged in bourbon barrels gives it a little bit of that. You get that oak in it, and it's pretty good. There's a name for people that trade handies for goods. Oh, freaking Dan! Welcome to the live broadcast, Dan. You know what? I love my handies, especially the four that I dip into every once in a while. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to mount you guys up. We'll start making this daiquiri and explain why we're making what we're making. You, Dan, I know it wasn't, but I know that you were definitely going to be drawn to instigating that. All right, let me get you adjusted real quick. So I have a few rums out there, and I'll make sure I show them to you. All right. As always, you guys are now on the tripod. You're mounted up. I'm going to walk back, but if you wait till the end, I'll answer them all at the end. All right, the daiquiri. So the daiquiri is a classic cocktail. There's no true date at when this cocktail was born, but it was somewhere from the 1900 to 1910 is the estimated time range. And it actually originally started as a punch. There was like some sort of Navy captain, I'm going to get this story wrong, but there was some sort of Navy captain that he couldn't handle his rum by itself. He actually preferred gin, and they ran out of gin at a spot, and the only thing they could get a hold of was rum. This guy didn't like rum by itself, and so they mixed it with sugar and lemons as a punch and served it, and that's how kind of the daiquiri was born. And then it slowly evolved into basically being three things: rum, lime juice, and simple syrup. And so that's the daiquiri that we know today. A lot of you might know the daiquiri as a really nasty, sweet blended drink that can be found at bowling alleys. Also less, every bar is a great bar. They all have their own little style and finesse to it, but my litmus test of a bar when it comes to ordering cocktails is the daiquiri. If I ask the bartender, hey, can you make me a daiquiri? And they look at me and say, sorry, we don't have a blender. That's when I usually just order a beer or bourbon. But if I go to a bar and I go, hey, can I get a daiquiri? And a little twinkle, I see a little twinkle in their eye and they get all excited, then I know I'm at the right place, and I know that they're going to be able to make me an amazing cocktail no matter what I get. So very exciting. The daiquiri is a classic, and the daiquiri follows sort of a general rule when it comes to booze, citrus, and sweet, and that is, I do it 2 parts booze to 1 part citrus to a half part sweet. And the reason that I do that is because I like things to be a little bit more tart. And so that's my flavor preference for that. Other people with a daiquiri, if you like it a little bit more sweet, what you can do is you can do 1.5 ounces of rum, 3/4 ounces of lime juice, and then you can put a whole ounce of simple syrup in there, and you're going to get a little bit more sweetness. If you want it to not be overly sweet, a little bit less tart than the recipe that I'm going to make tonight, then you could do 1.5 ounces of rum, 3/4 ounces of lime juice, and then 3/4 ounce of simple syrup. So the reason I went through that is not because I want you to memorize all these different ratios of recipes that go into this, but I want you to see something here, and that is this is a very easy cocktail to tweak and figure out what your taste profile preference is. Do you like cocktails that are a little bit more sweet, or a little bit more sour, or a little bit more spirit forward? This is the perfect cocktail to be able to tweak that because it's so simple and because there's only 3 ingredients in it. The only thing that I would encourage you to do is that when you are starting to figure out and dial in the daiquiri preference for yourself is to have some sort of baseline. So the baseline that I would encourage you to use is the one that I use because, one, it's sort of tried and true. A lot of people tend to really gravitate towards the daiquiri that I make and the ratios that I use. It's just fairly well balanced. While it is a little bit more tart, some of the rums that you select can make a difference in that because some rums are a little bit more sweeter than others. And so just start somewhere, right? So if you want to start 2, 1, half, because it's super easy to remember, start there, make that daiquiri. If you like it, keep making it that way. Mix up the rums and try different rums and things like that, or different simple syrups. If it's not to your liking, maybe it's a little bit too tart, or maybe it's not as strong, maybe you want it a little bit stronger, from there branch out. So maybe do a 2.25 ounce of rum if you want it a little bit more strong, or if you want it a little bit more sweet, do 2-1-1 or 2-1-3/4 ounce, and then start writing that down and making your daiquiris and figuring out what you like. So that's just a really big reason why I like this, other than I think it just tastes amazing, is because it's such a simple cocktail to kind of really dial in your flavor profile there. All right, so before we actually get started building this cocktail, I'll go over some of what I chose to use tonight to make my daiquiri. So of course we have our lime for our lime juice, that's going to be in there. And then we have our simple syrup. So you might notice my simple syrup is really dark. The reason being is because I used a turbinado sugar. You could use a demerara sugar, you could use white table sugar. The sugar that you use to make your simple syrup, the sky is the limit. But the reason that I specifically made a simple syrup with turbinado sugar is because turbinado is basically like sugar in the raw. And what it has is it has more of a molasses flavor in that. And the molasses flavor that you get in the turbinado sugar really plays nicely with rum. Why? Because most rums are made or distilled from a molasses. And so it really brings that flavor characteristic out of the rum. That being said, tonight's daiquiri that I'm going to be making, I'm actually going to be doing a blend of rums. Now, you do not have to do this. A daiquiri is simple, so you can choose one rum and just make it with that one rum, and it's going to turn out okay. Even if you're using, a common everyday rum like Bacardi, it'll still taste fantastic. The reason that I'm blending rums is because this, once again, is a cocktail that I have made hundreds of times, and I have sort of found what my taste profile is. And so I've also tweaked it enough with the different rums that I've sort of found characteristics in rums that I like. So when I do this blend of rums, it really brings out the flavor profiles that I enjoy in all three of these rums in that daiquiri. So the rums that I selected tonight, the first one, I'll start over here, is Plantation 20th Anniversary. It's not a very inexpensive rum. I mean, it's a little bit more up there, but this is a delicious rum, and it's actually a really good rum to sip on. This particular rum, it's been double aged. I want to say 18 months it's spent in ex-bourbon casks and then French oak barrels. So you get sort of a little bit of that oakiness that comes through this, but what really comes out in the flavor of this Plantation 20th Anniversary is vanilla. So there's a ton of sweetness up front, and then there's a strong, huge vanilla finish here that I really enjoy in this rum. The next rum that I'm going to be using is going to be Banks 5 Island Blend, and you can tell I like this rum because it's almost gone. I actually tend to make my daiquiris a lot of the time with just this rum. I think it's really, really good. It's a blend of 5 different rums. And what I get with this particular rum is it's very dry. So it's a dry rum. It also has a really light and crisp flavor to it. It doesn't have a ton of sweetness. It's just more dry and crisp, and then it has a very tropical fruit finish. And I think the tropical fruit finish is coming from sort of that Haitian rum or the Guyana rums that are in this. But there's some tropical fruit notes in the end of this that are just, they're amazing. And so I really like that characteristic of this rum. And then the last rum that I'm going to be using tonight is going to be rum Barbancourt 5-star 8-year. So there's a 5-year of this and there's an 8-year of this. I think there's a couple other ones out there. But the reason that I picked this rum specifically is because, one, it's very sweet up front, and then it has this agricole funkiness to it that I really like. Stuff that you would find in any other rum that is a pure sugarcane juice distillate like this one is. So it just, I can't explain it. It's almost like a grassy, funky, earthy tone to it that I really love in rum. And so by blending these 3 rums, what you're going to get is you're going to get a lot of sweetness from these 2. You're going to get some funkiness from this one, some good vanilla notes from this one, and then this one's going to round it out and just kind of settle everything down and keep it nice and crisp, and then also add that little tropical note at the end of it that really, in my opinion, goes well with lime juice, with the citrus that you're using. And then to bring it all home, once again, we're using a turbinado simple syrup. This is a 1-to-1 ratio, so equal parts sugar to water. I think it took me 5 minutes to make this. And there's a molasses-based characteristic in this that also just sort of brings out that rum characteristic that's there. All right, enough of me talking. Let's start building a cocktail. So with that, when it comes to a daiquiri, once again, when I build these, I always tend to use my citrus and my simple syrup first. Why? Because if I screw up my measurements with my booze, I don't have to dump all my booze out and start over again. So this is going to call for 1 ounce of lime juice. And if you're choosing your citrus correctly, 1 ounce is exactly 1 lime. So we got our 1 ounce of lime juice in there. Now I'm going to move on to my simple syrup. And we're going to do a 1/2 ounce of this. So I've also built daiquiris using not just a simple syrup, but also using, passion fruit syrup, cinnamon syrup, you name it. Any type of syrup that you want to make, you can use in a daiquiri. Just be careful if you're using like a passion fruit syrup, or something like that in that nature, because they also have a tartness to them as well. And so you get the tartness of the lime, that tartness in that kind of passion, that syrup, it really is, doesn't really balance very well. So you might actually even have to add a little bit of a regular simple syrup to that when you're using like a passion fruit syrup. All right, now when it comes to my blend, so we have 1 ounce of lime, 1/2 ounce of the simple syrup. I am going to use a specific blend ratio of the 2 ounces of rum that are going into this cocktail. So with that being said, I'm going to use 1/2 ounce of the Bourbon Court, 1/2 ounce of the Banks, and then I'm going to use a full ounce of the Plantation. So I'm going to do 1/2 ounce here. And then I'm going to get my Banks. And I tasted all these rums earlier just to remind myself what they tasted like. And man, they're just all so good on their own as well. So got my 1/2 ounce of Banks. And once again, you can do a daiquiri all with just 1 rum if you want to. And then I'm going to do a full ounce of the Plantation. And the reason I'm doing a full ounce of this one is because this one is probably the most sweet of them. And I need that sweetness in the rum to sort of balance out my citrus because I'm using, you know, a full ounce of lime juice in this. So now that I got all of my ingredients added, I'll just recap. It's 2 ounces of rum, 1 ounce of lemon juice, and 1/2 ounce of simple syrup. Now all that's left to do is add my ice and give it a shake. So as always, be very, very generous with the ice. Fill up that shaker and give it a good shake. And after you feel that shaker feel nice and cooled down, I forgot my double strainer. Go ahead and grab your coupe glass. I tend to always double strain because I don't like those ice chips floating around in there. And there you have it, a daiquiri. Now when it comes to the garnish for this particular drink, you can do like a thinly sliced lime wheel. You can do a lime wedge, or you can just do no garnish. I prefer no garnish on this, usually because it's not worth the effort for as long as it's going to take for me to drink it, which is really fast. There you have it, a daiquiri. Ah. So good. So good. I get that tropical fruit notes coming out from the Banks. I get that strong sweetness from the Plantation. And then just a little touch of earthiness and funk from that Bourbon Court. This is actually a lot sweeter than you think. There's still a tartness to it. But it's, oh man, it's so good. All right. And grab the phone, answer some questions, see what we got. All right. All right, here we go. Let's scroll back. All right, here we go. You guys are crazy. What bowling alley do you go to? I've never seen a daiquiri at a bowling alley. Come up to Brentwood. They got a daiquiri in the blender. And they put nasty stuff in there. Oh my gosh, you guys are out of control. This cocktail costs $600. Not even, man. Rum is so cheap. Agricole funk to me. I love rum agricoles. I can go on and on for days about the funk in rum. I was fortunate one time. You can still buy them, actually. He's still sampling it out. He had a 1970s Navy rum flagoon that he was doing samples of. And man, talk about funk. Like there was like, it was like a dank, dirty basement in that taste. Yeah, guys. You guys are out of control. All right, the comment. What else is rum made of other than sugar cane? Molasses is another one. And then you also have fermented sugar cane that rum is made from as well. So they sort of get the sugar cane, they harvest it, they put it in a bushel, they let it sit, and it gets kind of rotten and funky. And then they do a mash with that and a distillate of it. Dank and dirty taste, yeah. If anyone's had a dank beer, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like a funky, it's so good. Fletcher Whiskey Dog and Cass, thanks for having me. So for those of you that haven't listened yet or don't even know to listen, Hearts to Tales, they do an amazing podcast, and I had the pleasure of being invited to that and talking about cocktails. We did a tiki drink. We did last week's cocktail on there, and we had a good time. But yeah, I'm Fletcher Whiskey Dog. So Steve asked me what rums he should buy or some beginner rums, and so I gave him some beginner rums selection to choose from, and he bought them all. It was awesome. So he has a decent little rum stash going at his house right now. I don't know if you've had the Banks 5 Island. I'm going to put you on the spot. But Steve, if you've had the Banks 5 Island, tell me if you get those tropical notes in it that I was talking about. It's a very light and crisp. What's an easy to find good rum for this drink? An easy to find good rum for a daiquiri, quite honestly, is going to be Bacardi. I think I can even show you some rums that I got down here. So I got some Bacardi. So, this is something that you see everywhere. The easy rum to grab. It'll make a great daiquiri. It's very, cost effective. If you want to try to find something that is a little bit more, still easy to find, but you got to search a little bit more, like this Rondel Barrilito. This is their 3-star. They have a 2-star as well. That's very good. And then if you want a lot of funk, you can pick up a cachaça, and you'll get a lot of that funk that I'm talking about in that particular one. But yeah, those are some common rums. Bacardi works. Bacardi's a good rum to find, easy to find. It mixes very well. That's why you see a lot of bars using it. Maui Wowie from Altamont. Yes, that beer is very dank and very good. Any other questions out there? So I get, here, let's do this. Hold on. So for the Banks, it's very dry and light. So it's very sweet, but I get a lot of tropical notes at the end of it. So on the finish, I almost get sort of like a pineapple, guava. Even in the nose, I get some tropical fruit. I don't know if you're getting any of that. It's just so light and crisp. It's so good. What are you guys talking about? Where to start in the Death & Co book? All right, so there's some insider stuff that's going on right now that people don't know about, so I'll fill everybody in. So the Death & Co. cocktail book is one of my favorite cocktail books. Tyler, who's Kentucky Firewater, he also picked up that book, and we've been making a lot of cocktails out of it. And then real recently, Chris at Barrels and Mash purchased the Death & Co. cocktail book. It is just absolutely loaded with fantastic cocktails. So where would you start in that cocktail book? You know what? I would just read through, see what recipe you have the ingredients for, or what ingredients that you just maybe need to get one for or two more for, and then just make that. Just go. And then they're making fun of me because when it comes to using that cocktail book, I have a problem, and I earmark all the pages. I fold them in half. I earmark them all differently, and I write in the cocktail book. So I scribble in it. I circle things. I cross stuff out that I don't like. I destroy that book. But I mean, how do you learn, right? I write in what I subbed for, different liquors and stuff like that, little tweaks I made to it. So when I open up that book, it's dialed in. It's dialed into how I like it. But it's a great book, great cocktail book. All right. A little insider knowledge for everybody. Yeah, they have some, the bar you would have to build to be able to do all of those cocktails in there or execute all those cocktails is crazy. I don't even have all the stuff that you would need to make all the cocktails in that book. All right, guys. Once again, every week we do this. I know that I haven't been consistent on the day. It really just varies on what my work schedule is for the week, but I do promise that I'll do one every week. So the goal is to get one of these out every week. Seems like a lot of people like Tuesdays, so I'll try to shoot for Tuesdays, but again, no promises. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are usually the best day of the week for me anyway, so one of those 2 days is usually what it's going to be. I know Fridays people are going to have fun and be busy. Monday's just a mess. So Tuesday, Wednesday it is. Thursday I got hockey, so I'm not going to be drinking before hockey. Anyways, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. All good friends out there on Instagram. And once again, I'm going to plug some people. Go check out Hearts to Tales, their podcast. If you haven't, I was on their last one, and we had a lot of fun talking about cocktails on there. All right, I'll see you guys.